This happened a few months ago. I was a freelance journalist named Emily, looking for stories. I moved to Maplewood, Wisconsin, drawn by the whispers of unexplained deaths tied to the Wendigo. I figured it would be easy to settle in a small town. I was wrong. At first, things felt normal. I talked to the townsfolk. They shared bits of their lives, but whenever I asked about the deaths, they grew quiet. I could see their faces turn pale. It was like I had crossed some invisible line. No one wanted to talk. At the diner, the chatter would stop when I mentioned names. It felt like I was prying into a wound left unhealed. One afternoon, an elderly woman said the word Wendigo. I thought it was a joke, but her eyes widened with fear. "You shouldn't dig too deep, dear," she warned. A chill ran through me, but I brushed it off. I was there to uncover stories, not be scared away by old tales. Days turned into weeks. I noticed a pattern in the deaths. Each one came after someone else disappeared. No trace left behind. I felt a tightness in my chest. The more I learned, the more uneasy I became. I wandered into the woods near my cottage, hoping to find some clues about the missing people. One night, while sitting on my porch, I heard strange noises. Branches cracking echoed through the dark. My heart raced. I thought it might be just an animal. But then came a low growl that sent dread crawling up my spine. I wanted to go inside, but my legs felt heavy. I stayed frozen, listening. The next day, I hiked deeper into the woods, searching for anything about the disappearances. I found strange markings on trees. They were symbols that made my stomach turn. I had this nagging feeling I was being watched. With every snap of a twig, I whipped around, expecting something to leap at me. But it was always empty. I returned to town, craving answers. People were even more reluctant to talk. One man finally said, "You don't know what you're getting into." His eyes were haunted. I felt a tight knot in my stomach. Maybe I should leave. But curiosity pulled me in. That evening I walked back to my cottage after dinner. The air felt thick. I knew something was off. I froze when I thought I heard my name whispered by the wind. My skin prickled. That's when I saw it. A figure, tall and gaunt, lurking in the shadows. The cold seeped into my bones. I thought about running, but my legs wouldn't move. I just stood there, paralyzed. I felt like I was trapped inside a nightmare. And then it spoke in a voice that echoed through the darkness. What happened next is all a blur. I can still remember the darkness closing in. I never found those answers, but sometimes I can still hear that whisper calling my name. I've lost my peace. Now, I just wonder what really happened in Maplewood. I woke up in a cold sweat. The room felt too heavy, the air stifling. I had no idea how I got back to my cottage. Memories of that night slipped like water through my fingers. I sat up, heart pounding. I knew I had to get answers, yet a part of me screamed to run away. That gaze haunted me. The next morning I decided to return to the diner. Maybe someone would have the courage to talk now that I had seen something. The bell on the door jingled as I walked in. The usual crowd was there, but laughter turned into whispers. Heads turned my way, eyes were wide. I took a deep breath and approached the counter. "Good morning, Emily," said Ruth, the waitress. Her voice was steady, but the tremor in her hands betrayed her fear. "What can I get you?" "I need to ask you about the deaths in town," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Silence fell. Every face became a mask of worry. I glanced around, feeling the weight of their gazes. Ruth shook her head slowly. "You should leave it alone, dear. Let the past rest." "Past," I shot back. "There are people missing. Someone has to care." Just as Ruth began to speak, the door swung open. A man stood there, drenched in sweat, eyes wild. He looked around as if he expected something to follow him in. "It's not safe," he shouted, voice cracking. "You don't know what you're tampering with." My skin prickled again. This was connected, I was sure. I stepped toward him. "What do you know?" I asked, my heart racing. He glanced at me, then at the townsfolk who had gone pale. "You need to stop digging. The Wendigo doesn't take kindly to nosy journalists." "What do you mean?" I pressed, feeling defiant. "What has it done?" His expression shifted, a mixture of fear and regret. Before he could answer, he stumbled backward, his eyes darting to the woods outside. "It's here! It knows!" I turned toward the window, dread pooling in my stomach. The trees stood dark and ominous, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Ruth dropped a plate, shattering it on the floor. Chaos erupted in the diner, customers shouting and running for the exit. I stayed rooted, caught between instinct and desperation. I needed to know more. "Wait!" I yelled, searching for the man. He had already barreled through the exit. I dashed after him, crossing the threshold just in time to see him vanish into the tree line. I hesitated. A dark, instinctual fear gripped me, warning that the forest was not welcoming. But I felt tethered to the truth. The air felt electric, as if the world had shifted. I couldn't let this chance slip away. Just as I was about to step into the woods, I heard it again. A whisper, softer this time, winding through the branches. "Emily." Something deep inside me wanted to run, but my feet felt stuck. That voice was calling, like a siren song. I had to go. I couldn't turn back now. As I stepped into the woods, the shadows thickened, and the ambient noises faded into haunting stillness. That's when I saw it, something moving deeper among the trees, something not quite human. My heartbeat roared in my ears. I couldn't let fear win. I took a shaky breath and pressed on, my resolve hardening. But what lay ahead was far more terrifying than I could have imagined. I pushed deeper into the woods, the crunch of twigs underfoot the only sound in this eerie silence. Shadows danced around me, flickering at the edge of my vision. Each step felt like a challenge. I wanted to turn back, to return to the safety of the diner. But the pull to find out what lay ahead was stronger. Then I spotted it again. A glimpse of movement, dark and quick. My breath caught in my throat as I quickened my pace. "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. "Is anyone there?" Nothing but silence answered. Yet I could feel eyes on me. Heavy, penetrating stares that sent chills prickling down my spine. My mind raced back to the man's warning. The Wendigo. The word sent a shudder through my body. I had heard stories as a child, tales meant to frighten. But this fear felt real, tangible. As I pushed forward, the trees began to thin. I stumbled into a small clearing, the light filtering in through the branches above. In the center, something caught my eye. A dark, tattered cloak spread out on the ground. I hesitated, fear gnawing at my gut. I walked closer, heartbeat quickening with each step. That's when I noticed the unmistakable outline of a form beside the cloak. Panic surged through me. I was not alone. The figure lay still, as if asleep. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone, wanting desperately to capture this moment, but it slipped from my fingers and crashed to the ground, the screen cracking. I scrambled to pick it up, heart racing when I heard it. A rattling, slow breath behind me. I spun around, and just like that, everything froze. A creature stood there, half hidden by shadows. It was tall and gaunt, limbs too long for its body, its skin a sickly gray. Dark, hollow eyes bore into me as if reading my soul. I took a step back, mind racing with the gravity of what I faced. This had to be the Wendigo. I remembered the stories, the hunger, the untold madness. A shiver ran through me, a primitive instinct screaming to run. But my feet felt glued to the ground. The creature took a step closer, and I stumbled back, suddenly aware of the cloak again. Could it belong to one of the missing? I gasped, the horror of the realization turning my limbs to lead. I had to reach the town. I needed to warn them, but first I had to escape this nightmare. I turned to flee, but before I could move, the Wendigo spoke, not with words, but a series of low growls that fell into the air. "Emily." The voice coiled around me, freezing me in place once more. My name echoed, deep and forbidding. I blinked, heart pounding. It wasn't a creature of myth. It was something worse. This was a predator, one that knew me. In that split second of paralyzed fear, I turned and ran. Branches lashed at my face as I sprinted through the underbrush, the chilling sound of its pursuit crackling behind me. I had no idea how close it was, but I felt it breathing down my neck, a presence no longer just a story. Just as the trees began to thin ahead, a deafening roar erupted behind me. I burst into the clearing just beyond the woods and collapsed, breathless and terrified. But as I looked back, the monstrous figure did not emerge from the forest. Instead, it stayed hidden, lurking, watching me from the dark. I was safe for now, but I knew the danger wasn't over. I needed to find out what it wanted before it came for me again. I couldn't catch my breath, my heart pounding like a drum. As I lay in the clearing, I forced myself to look around. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows that felt sinister. The air was thick, charged with an unseen threat. I needed to get back to town. I needed answers. I pushed myself up, trembling, and glanced around for any signs of the creature. It was strangely quiet now. I stood slowly, the cloak on the ground drawing my eyes once more. Something inside me urged me to take another look. I had to know if it was connected to the disappearances. I stepped closer, my pulse hammering in my ears. The cloak lay as if discarded, aged and weathered. But as I bent down, I caught a glimpse of something beneath it, an object glinting in the fading light. I reached out, fingers trembling, and moved the cloak aside. A necklace, its silver chain tangled, lay half buried in the dirt. The pendant was distinct, shaped like a set of antlers. It felt familiar somehow, but the knot of fear in my stomach told me I had to be careful. I looked around again, checking for signs of movement. Nothing stirred, yet I felt it, an awareness slowly creeping in on me. What did this mean? The necklace could belong to one of the missing. A chill engulfed me. I had read about a local family who reported their son missing years ago. They said he wore a necklace like this one. Suddenly the stories of the Wendigo felt closer, more real. This was not just folklore anymore. I stashed the necklace in my pocket and made my way toward the tree line, every instinct screaming for me to run, to leave this place behind. But I couldn't. I had to confront the truth. I needed to find a way to warn the town, to shine a light on what was lurking in the shadows. As I crossed into the trees, I heard it again, a low growl vibrating through the air, reverberating off the trunks. I froze, heart racing. Was it emerging from the darkness? Or was it just my imagination playing tricks? I turned suddenly, adrenaline surging, and prepared to dash back. Before I could take a step, I noticed a flash of movement in the distant underbrush. My pulse quickened. Someone was there, someone who shouldn't be. I squinted into the dim light and caught a glimpse of a figure. It seemed small, frail even, but a wave of dread washed over me. I stepped forward, curiosity battling with fear. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky. "Is someone there?" The figure turned slowly, revealing a gaunt face, pale, eyes sunken. It took a single step toward me, but as the sunlight flickered on its expression, a sly smirk spread across its lips. I stumbled back, realizing this was not a victim but another presence, one I hadn't anticipated. "Emily," it whispered, mimicking the growl that haunted me. My blood ran cold. I took another step back, the oppressive weight of despair settling over me. I turned to run, fear propelling me forward, but the forest felt alive, thrumming with danger. Suddenly, that same dark growl echoed from behind me, the Wendigo's voice merging with the mystery of the figure. What was happening? The realization crashed into me that I was not just being hunted but surrounded. I sprinted, heart pounding, desperate to escape the forest and whatever truth lay ahead. I could only hope the town would believe me before it was too late. But as I burst from the trees, the chilling question remained, would they even be safe in their ignorance? I stumbled out of the trees, gasping for breath, the cool evening air biting at my skin. The town lay ahead, peaceful and unsuspecting, oblivious to the horrors I had just encountered. I looked over my shoulder, half expecting to see the figure in the woods or the dark, looming shape of the Wendigo. But nothing followed me. For a moment, I allowed myself to breathe, to think. I turned towards the diner, the only place open this time of night. I needed to talk to someone. I needed to share what I'd found, the necklace, the figure, the growl. Maybe someone would listen. As I pushed the door open, the bell jingled and eyes turned toward me. A couple of regulars sat in the corner booth, their laughter dying down. The waitress, Betty, looked up from behind the counter, concern flickering across her features. I must have looked a sight. Pale and disheveled, mud streaking my jeans and leaf litter in my hair. "Emily, honey, what happened to you?" she asked, stepping towards me. I was in the forest," I stammered, my voice shaking. "I found something." I pulled the necklace from my pocket and held it out. The silver glinted under the diner's fluorescent lights, and I watched as recognition washed over her face. "Oh my God," she whispered, taking a step back. "That looks just like the one Jimmy wore." Jimmy? The boy who disappeared years ago. The stories had always been unsettling, but now they felt dangerously real. I felt the weight of the necklace in my palm and my heart sank. "I think something is happening out there. I heard something inhuman." The other patrons had started to get involved, whispering among themselves. I could see the doubt in their eyes, the disbelief. "Emily, it's just stories," one of the regulars sneered. "Kids go missing all the time. It doesn't mean there's something supernatural lurking in the woods." I swallowed hard, fighting back my anger. "No, this is different. People went missing, and now it happened again. You have to believe me." "What do you want us to do?" Betty asked, her voice softer now, though still skeptical. "I don't know," I said, feeling overwhelmed. "But we need to warn everyone. This isn't just an old tale anymore. People are in danger." Suddenly the diner lights flickered and the hum of the refrigerator stopped. The familiar sounds of the town were swallowed by an eerie silence. Then came the growl. It rumbled low and deep, echoing through the diner walls, stopping everyone in their tracks. My blood chilled as I looked around at the terrified faces of the people I'd known my whole life. The growl grew louder, morphing into something that seemed to shake the very foundation of the building. Betty's eyes widened, and she backed away from the counter. "Get out!" I shouted, racing for the door. "We have to leave, now!" Outside, the night was thick with tension. I turned back to the diner one last time, knowing that whatever was coming was closing in, and the safety I'd always felt here was crumbling. I didn't just need to escape. I needed to find out what this thing was and how to stop it before it took anyone else. That necklace, that voice, it was all connected. But as I scanned the darkness around me, a chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just a creature hiding in the woods anymore, it was here, and I was running out of time. I sprinted down the street, my heart pounding loudly enough to drown out the whispers of the dark. Every instinct screamed at me to keep moving, but my mind raced just the same. I needed to understand what was happening, and fast. I didn't even know where to go or who to trust. The growl still echoed in my ears, a bone-chilling reminder of what I had left behind in the diner. Glancing back, I half expected to see something emerging from the shadows, but all I saw were the familiar outlines of buildings, shadowy and still. I needed answers, so I made my way toward the library. It was a small, dusty place, but it had books and old newspapers, records of the past that might hold clues. Maybe the stories were just lore. Maybe there was something more I could find. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside. The comforting smell of paper and wood wrapped around me, though it did little to ease my anxiety. I flicked on a lamp at the front desk, illuminating the room in a warm glow. My eyes fell on the filing cabinets, filled with clippings of missing persons cases. I rifled through the drawers, searching for anything that mentioned Jimmy or the disappearances. Just as I began to feel hopeful, I heard a noise behind me, a rustle that came from the back of the library. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. "Hello?" I called out, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Silence answered back, stretching into an uncomfortable void. I grabbed a nearby lamp, holding it like a weapon as I edged toward the sound. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. An older man shrouded in a heavy coat, looking just as startled as I was. "Emily?" he asked, squinting. "What are you doing here at this hour?" "Mr. Thompson?" I recognized him as the town historian, a man who knew more about the legends than anyone else. I found a necklace in the woods, the one Jimmy was wearing when he disappeared. I think it's connected to something." something dangerous. His expression shifted from surprise to concern. "You shouldn't be out here. There are things roaming these woods at night, things that should not be disturbed." I gripped the lamp tighter. "I heard it, Mr. Thompson. That growl, it's real. People are in danger, and I need your help to understand what's going on." He hesitated, eyes darting to the door. "We can't stay here. If it's out there—" He trailed off, the fear etched on his features. "Then what do we do?" I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. He took a deep breath, glancing back at the darkened shelves. "We need to find the old stories, the ones people have forgotten. They may hold the key to whatever is hunting this town." As he turned to lead the way, I felt a sudden chill sweep through the library. There it was again, that growl, closer this time, resonating from the outside walls. The hairs on my neck stood up. "Mr. Thompson, we have to go, now!" Just as I turned, I caught a glimpse of something at the edge of the doorway, a silhouette standing in the darkness. My heart raced as the realization struck me. It wasn't just a creature in the woods anymore. It was whatever was haunting my town, and it was coming for us. I bolted for the exit, adrenaline rushing through my veins, hoping we could make it out before it was too late. I burst through the library doors, pulling Mr. Thompson with me. We rushed into the cool night, his heavy coat flapping behind him as we darted for the safety of the streetlights. I could hear the growl thundering even louder now, a sinister echo that dug into my bones, urging me not to stop. "Where do we go?" I panted, scanning the shadows for anything lurking. I wanted to find a place to hide, a plan to formulate, but all I felt was panic. "The old archives," he said, his voice steadying despite the chaos surrounding us. "They're in the basement of the town hall. We need those records, the ones about the town's history with the creature." But what if it comes after us? I couldn't shake the feeling that it was closing in, lurking just beyond my sight. "Then we run. Just keep moving." As we crossed the street, I glanced back, half expecting to see a monstrous shape breaking free from the shadows. But there was nothing, only the stillness of the night, still heavy with that bizarre tension. The town hall loomed ahead, a skeletal structure against the dark sky. As we approached the entrance, my breath hitched at the sight of the door slightly ajar. "Did you leave that open?" "No," he whispered, his brows furrowing in concern. "We're not alone." We stepped cautiously inside, the floorboards creaking under our weight. The faint smell of dust and neglect filled my nostrils, pushing me to hurry. Mr. Thompson led me down to the basement where flickering fluorescent lights barely illuminated the rows of boxes and old filing cabinets. "Help me look," he instructed, urgency gripping his tone as he rifled through a cabinet. I started scanning the old files, hoping to find anything related to disappearances or strange deaths. Then I saw it. A yellowed newspaper clipping nestled under a pile of papers. 6 deaths, all unsolved, linked to something they called a Wendigo, I read aloud. "What does that even mean?" "Wendigos are creatures from local legend," Mr. Thompson murmured, his eyes flashing with realization. "They represent insatiable hunger and madness, but they shouldn't exist, not in our world." The growl erupted again, louder this time and closer, rattling everything around us. My heart was in my throat. "We have to find out what happened," I said, flipping through the records frantically. "Look for the patterns, dates, names, anything." Mr. Thompson's voice was low, focused, but I could hear the tension there. As I looked through the clippings, something caught my eye. A name. "Jimmy," I exclaimed, showing him the article on the wall. "He was mentioned here, right before he disappeared. They thought he was one of the victims." Mr. Thompson's eyes widened. "If he's connected, there may be others. We have to find that necklace before it's too late." Before I could respond, the growl echoed again, a deep rumble that shook the very walls of the basement. I looked up to see the shadows stretching as if something was right outside, looming, waiting. And then, the lights flickered and went out, plunging us into darkness. "Mr. Thompson," I whispered, fear creeping along my skin. "What do we do now?" I heard him shift next to me, and before he could answer, the growl morphed into something worse, a banshee-like wail that sent a chill down my spine. I grabbed the lamp, plunging it into the black void, and that's when I saw it. A shimmering figure just beyond the door, watching us, hunger etched on its face. My breath hitched just as the growl returned, now a full-bodied roar, and I knew we had to escape, but there was no way to get out without confronting whatever was hunting us. The air turned thick with dread, each small sound echoing like a gunshot in the silence. My grip tightened on the lamp, the weak beam illuminating the feral snarl of the creature just outside the door. I could hardly breathe, paralyzed by fear and indecision. "Follow my lead," Mr. Thompson whispered, his voice steady despite the growing roar. He edged closer to me. "We need to back up, stay low, and find a way out through another route." With every instinct screaming at me to run, I forced myself to move, cautiously retreating. The creature shifted, its claws scraping against the floor, and I felt a surge of adrenaline. I couldn't just stand there. Our hurried footsteps echoed, each creak in the floor promising betrayal. I scanned our surroundings. Old shelves lined the walls, filled with musty old records and forgotten memories. There had to be some way out. Suddenly I spotted a narrow window behind a filing cabinet. "There," I hissed, pointing. "We could fit through." Mr. Thompson nodded, his face grim. "Help me move this cabinet." Together we shoved the cabinet aside, the wood scraping loudly against the concrete floor. The air felt electric, charged with the tension of a predator on the hunt. Each noise sent fresh waves of panic coursing through me. The window was small and dusty, but it was open just enough for us to slip through. "You first," Mr. Thompson urged, glancing toward the door where the growls intensified, the creature hungry and relentless. With my heart racing, I climbed onto the ledge, then squeezed through, barely managing not to get stuck. I landed outside in the dark alley, the chill of the night air hitting me like a slap on the face, my breath visible in the fog. I turned around to see that Mr. Thompson was still inside. "Come on," I urged, panic rising in my throat. He was just about to head to the window when a loud crash echoed from inside, shaking the building. I barely managed to keep myself steady on my feet. "Mr. Thompson," I shouted, willing him to hurry. He lunged for the window, but just as he reached it, the howling of the creature reached an intense crescendo. I could see a shadow moving towards him, a massive form silhouetted against the faint glow of the basement lights. My blood froze as I grabbed his hand and pulled hard. He almost fell out, but we both landed on the ground on the other side. "You okay?" I asked, breathless. "Yeah, we need to go. Now." He scanned the alley with urgency. "Where?" I was trembling, still feeling the echo of that wail in my bones. "The library," he said, his voice steadying into resolve. "If we can find the necklace, we might be able to stop it." "Are you sure it's safe?" I hesitated. "There's no other choice," he said firmly. As we sprinted into the night, a terrible thought hit me. What if it already knows where we are? The growl reverberated again, but this time it felt different, closer and angrier. We bolted into the darkness, but I could hear it, the unmistakable thud of something chasing us, relentless in its pursuit. And deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The library loomed ahead, its tall windows dark and lifeless. My heart hammered in my chest as if urging me to turn back. "You're sure this is the place?" I asked, glancing over my shoulder. Mr. Thompson nodded, determination etched on his face. "It has to be. The necklace was said to be kept in the local history section." Just as we reached the entrance, a desperate howl pierced the night air. It was closer this time. I felt the cold tingle of panic creeping up my spine, but there was no time to hesitate. We slipped through the library doors and pulled them shut behind us. Inside, the silence was palpable, broken only by the faint shuffling of pages somewhere in the distance. The smell of old paper and ink filled my nostrils. It felt like stepping into another world, a world that existed long before our frantic escape. "Where do we go?" I whispered, my voice barely breaking the stillness. Mr. Thompson's eyes darted around the vast space. "We need to find that section. Stay close and keep quiet." We navigated through the aisles, the sound of our footsteps muffled by thick carpets. I forced myself not to think about what might be hunting us. I focused on the dim rays of light spilling from the emergency exit signs above, feeling only slightly reassured. But then I heard it again, a low growl resonating through the library. The sound sent a tremor through me. We halted in our tracks. "It's in here," I breathed, nearly choking on the words. "It has to be nearby." Mr. Thompson's voice was tense. "We need to find that necklace, fast." We moved deeper into the library, the shadows swallowing us whole. I tried to steady my breathing, but each passing moment heightened my fear. The history section must be close, but the growling echoed through the high ceilings, seeming to bounce off the walls, taunting us. Suddenly, Mr. Thompson spotted a door at the end of the aisle. "There! It's got to be there!" We rushed toward it. Just as we reached for the handle, the growl shifted into a terrifying roar. The door rattled under a force that sent fresh terror through me. "Open it!" I shouted, my voice cracking. He yanked the door open, and we both staggered inside, slamming it shut behind us just as something collided with it. The impact jolted us, and I stumbled back, my heart racing. The room was cluttered with old tables and overflowing boxes. Sunlight managed to peek through a cracked window, illuminating a small glass case in the corner. My breath caught in my throat. There it was, the necklace, twinkling ominously as if beckoning us. "That's it," I said, pointing. But before Mr. Thompson could take a step, I felt a surge of unease. There was something wrong. The air grew heavy, charged with an unsettling energy. I turned back toward the door just as a shadow passed by the glass. "Something's coming," I gasped. Just as I registered that we weren't alone, the door burst open and the creature was there, larger than I ever imagined. Its menacing eyes locked onto us, mouth open in a silent snarl. I instinctively backed away, fear clawing at my insides. We had very little time. "Grab it!" Mr. Thompson shouted. But fear held me in place. Then everything went dark. I had no idea what was going to happen next, but I knew I needed to act fast. I stumbled backward as darkness engulfed the room, the growl of the Wendigo reverberating in my ears like a war drum. It was here, now, and I was paralyzed with fear. But amidst the confusion, something clicked in my mind. This was my chance. "Get the necklace!" I yelled, shaking off the encroaching dread. I could hear Mr. Thompson moving beside me, his focus sharp, despite the terror surrounding us. Once the initial shock subsided, adrenaline surged through me. The faint glimmer of the necklace twinkled in the dim light, promising answers, maybe even salvation. I took a step forward, forcing myself to breathe, to move. "I'll grab it. You distract it." He nodded, his jaw set in determination. I lunged toward the glass case, heart pounding. The Wendigo's growl morphed into a deep, primal roar that echoed through the room, its breath hot and rancid. I could feel the weight of its gaze, a predator ready to pounce. With trembling hands, I reached for the necklace, lifting the glass case aside. The moment my fingers closed around the cold metal, I felt a surge of energy course through me, as if the piece of jewelry held some unseen power. The Wendigo's screech filled the room, and I turned just in time to see Mr. Thompson clutch a nearby lamp, hurling it toward the creature with all his strength. The lamp smashed against the wall, sending glass cascading to the floor, and for a fleeting second, it disoriented the beast, giving me just enough time to stand my ground. "Now!" I shouted, raising the necklace high. "Leave us!" The Wendigo paused, its eyes narrowing. I could feel my heart in my throat as the necklace began to glow faintly. Whatever force it held seemed to resonate with the creature, a challenge that punctuated the air. "Get back!" Mr. Thompson yelled, stepping in front of me. I didn't know if it was bravery or desperation, but it ignited a flicker of hope within me. "What do we do?" I cried, panic surfacing. "Try to invoke its legends," he urged, panting slightly. "It's a manifestation of madness and hunger. Use the stories that bind it." I could only think of the town's whispers, the tales woven into the fabric of Maplewood. "You're bound by the earth, by the hunger of the lost," I shouted, feeling a renewed strength. "You cannot feed on fear while we hold the truth." For a moment the Wendigo halted, caught in a tangled web of its own nature, its hollow eyes battling confusion and rage. I pressed on, feeling the energy of the necklace pulse as I spoke. "You are a legend, a reminder of what happens when one loses their way." The creature opened its mouth wide, releasing an unholy scream that reverberated through the room, shattering the glass case that had once held the necklace. My heart raced, but I refused to look away. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the lamps and plunging us into darkness. My breath quickened, and fear clawed at my chest. "Emily," Mr. Thompson's voice broke through the chaos. "Don't let go of the necklace, keep it close." As if hearing him, the Wendigo lunged forward, but I remained steadfast, gripping the necklace tightly. The moment it was close enough, I swung the glowing pendant like a beacon. The light brightened, piercing the shadows, creating an ethereal glow that wrapped around the creature. In an agonizing moment, as the Wendigo recoiled from the light, I caught a glimpse of something deep within its eyes, a fleeting reflection of humanity and yearning amidst the ravenous darkness. But then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the connection was severed. The beast howled one last time before retreating, shadow swallowing it whole as it vanished into the abyss of the library. The silence that followed felt almost unbearable, the air thick with uncertainty. I felt disoriented, as if the world would crumble at any moment. "Did we do it?" I murmured, still clutching the necklace, unsure if it was merely an apparition of luck or if we had actually banished the creature. "I don't know," Mr. Thompson admitted, breathless, "but it didn't end like we expected." The answer lingered in the air like an unclosed chapter. As we stumbled out of the library, the night felt eerily quiet, the haunting growl gone, but the tension in the atmosphere was palpable. The town lay ahead, untouched and still, but we knew the darkness that had once hunted us was just lingering at the edges, biding its time, waiting for the next chance. I glanced back at the library, then at the necklace dangling from my fingers. There were no easy answers in a town built on whispers and shadows, but the necklace could never be returned to where it belonged. I had escaped, but the real question echoed in my mind. Would the darkness stay away, or would it merely wait for someone else to dig too deep again? I took a deep breath before we walked into the light of dawn, knowing that Maplewood would never truly be the same for me, nor for anyone who had lived its secrets. I moved away soon after, but with every fleeting thought of that place, the haunting Amerindian growls still reverberate, reminding me that some legends are born from truths we dare not confront. I turned away, the weight of the necklace heavy in my pocket, unsure if I could ever truly forget.